Okay, so when it comes to astral projection, what is that? Essentially, that is when your soul leaves your body, and it's not in a crazy way. It usually happens when you're sleeping, unless you are a little bit more advanced. So you'll sometimes feel it when you're asleep. You'll feel like you're somewhere else, whether it's somewhere in the world, somewhere in a different universe. It doesn't really matter. You're just out of your body. You'll also notice, pay attention to like my brother. He astral projects, and he is not like us at all. He doesn't want to be super woo-woo at all. But he started noticing, because he would be out of his body and start playing with his ceiling. So you'll just know when you will separate yourself from the body is essentially what astral projecting is. And it just depends on where you want to go or where you're supposed to be going.
Is it dangerous? Because I've heard like some people be like, don't do it before you're ready because it could harm you. So I was curious, like, is it dangerous, or like what your perspective is on it?
Okay. So when it comes to astral projecting and it being dangerous, yes, it could be. I'm not gonna lie, it could be. Also depends on where you're going. But I wouldn't be fearful of it, as long as you're taking the baby steps to get to that point. Yes, if we go from A to Z, you might get sick. You might get a little lost out there. You know, it's advanced. There's levels to this thing. But if you do it in a way that is right for you and take those baby steps, have that foundation, then you shouldn't have to worry too much. I know, like, for my astral projection stuff, I didn't do it a lot because I get physically a little bit more sick, especially at night. I'm trying to sleep. I got things to do. But essentially, I started connecting to the extraterrestrials, and the energy is so different, and it really helps put things in perspective, and it helps just unlock certain parts of your brain that I think could be very powerful. I also feel like there's a lot of healing that can happen with that, because then you start detaching from maybe the 3D things that we were conditioned with, that I think could be really beneficial to some people. So depending on where you go when you astral project, what I mean by that is astral projecting, you can go anywhere. You can go to your grandmother's house from 10 years ago. You can be hopping timelines. You can be going to visit other planets. You can be visiting other galaxies. You can be visiting other extraterrestrials. There really is no limit exists. The only limits that really we have are on the human world and the 3D world. So use your imagination. You could literally go anywhere you can't even think of. But the reason it can be safe is because ideally you don't want to go to other dimensions unless you have been trained to do so. By you is not meant to be heard by you, and leave it alone, because you don't want to mess up your energies either.
I feel like there's so much about astral projection. Like there's chapters. I'm like so like intrigued now. Like, I'm
well,
like,
maybe that's because you're
like,
doing it. Maybe
like,
that's something you should practice.
Maybe I was like, oh, you know, I would never do that until like I would be ready and stuff. But like, I didn't even know like all these things that you could like, because you're saying like essentially someone could astral project and like go back to a room that they weren't in and like hear a conversation that they weren't meant to hear. Like,
yeah.
Wait, what? I'm like, there's so many chapters. So this is
levels.
Super, levels. I know. Super, this could be its own like documentary.